Part 59. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 582. Zaza. 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 Ah. Far away. The monster covered with arrows stomped on the ground and was turbulent. It kept shouting slag and rushed towards Li Chang'e. Li Chang'e suddenly understood. It turns out to be Jing Jing. Li Chang'e pulled out the thick arrow that pinned him to the ground with a wry smile. Since when did he start pretending that he even thought he was a loser? Since when did Li Chang'e become accustomed to living an ignoble existence and forget the excitement and joy of pretending to be good in trials when he had no one to rely on? When did it start? I'm slacking off. It's so mesmerizing. Too addicted. 100 meters. 90. 80. 70. The monster is closing in. Li Chang'e looked at the 5 scorching suns in the sky formed by his special effects, the 4 shining golden characters, and an exclamation point. As Li Chang'e's mentality changed, the line "Big Brother, save me" suddenly became distorted and dimmed, like a candle that seemed to be extinguished at any time. At this time, what Li Chang'e taught the well-behaved students in the drama class not long ago resurfaced in his mind. An excellent actor is never satisfied with interpreting the character to the point of like it. A good actor who plays a janitor will become the janitor. If he wants to play coward, then he is a coward. If he wants to play the hero, then he is the hero. If he wants to play the devil, then he is the devil. In front of Li Chang'e, a sentence, like a line announcement in a shooting scene, emerges in front of my eyes. Who I am? Li Chang'e. Who is Li Chang'e? Have no idea. Have no idea. Have no idea. But if heaven had not given birth to me, Li Chang'e, the art of swordsmanship would be as long as the night. Starting today, I, Li Chang'e, am destined to live for the sword, to die for the sword, to be crazy for the sword, to be angry for the sword, and to be angry for the sword. I am the sword is me, I am the swordman, Li Chang'e. Li Chang'e's eyes changed rapidly from confusion at the beginning. In just a few seconds, he changed into more than a dozen expressions. If there were other people around at this moment, they would definitely be impressed by Li Chang'e's superb acting skills. It seemed that even he could pass it. A few seconds later, Li Chang'e's changing eyes suddenly froze. At the moment when his eyes were fixed, an invisible momentum spread quietly to the surroundings with Li Chang'e as the center. The golden light in the sky, the 5 scorching sun-like boss, help, suddenly dissipated, turning into bright golden raindrops, falling around Li Chang'e. Performance. Li Chang'e chuckled lightly. Chi 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 chi. Almost at the moment Li Chang'e whispered those 3 words, hundreds of thick arrows that had been condensed and formed were shot out from the countless holes in the Jing Jing monster at the same time. The terrible rain of arrows covered the sky and shot towards the direction where Li Chang'e was lying. The monster with arrows all over its body was transformed by Su Jingjing's resentment. Perhaps it was because in Kanzaki City, because of Li Chang'e's usual show of pretentiousness, that Su Jingjing couldn't help but have the idea of shooting this scumbag to death. Under the influence of some kind of power, this evil thought materialized into this a terrifying monster who loyally adheres to Su Anjing's wishes and desperately wants to kill Li Chang'e, a scumbag. The rain of arrows that filled the sky, each arrow, and each shot, represented Su Jinping's resentment. Although the resentment was a bit numerous and dense, it was obviously infinitely amplified. But it can also be seen how eager the real Su Jingjing is to shoot this scumbag Li Chang'e to death. Certainly. Li Chang'e felt miserable, but he didn't blame Su Anjing. After all, he asked for it himself. Who made his acting skills so realistic that even his teammates believed him? Boom boom boom. Thousands of arrows fired. The scumbag must die. On Jing Jing monster, the resentment is like substance, and arrows keep shooting. The black water spewed out from each hole quickly, and it condensed into solid form in a blink of an eye. It seemed that the rain of arrows was endless and endless. The position where Li Chang'e was filled with arrows, and they were all densely packed. Whether it was Li Chang'e or other ghosts, they were all cleared away by this wave of arrows. Terrible noises were heard nearby. Many apostles who were following the cloud-piercing arrow signal to reach their destination accidentally caught a glimpse of movement in the sky. Their scalps were numb with fright, and they thought to themselves that no wonder they had to send out a distress signal. Under such a terrifying rain of arrows, whoever helps will die, and the evil pen will go away. The apostles who were passing by quickly took a detour and went even further. Ah! An indifferent laughter came from behind Jing Jing Monster. Jing Jinghuai heard Li Chang'e, who was supposed to be shot to death, and his voice appeared strangely behind him. The hole in his body that was spraying black water suddenly clicked, as if it was blocked and could not spray out. It turns out that ghosts can also be shocked. The golden light in the sky once again appeared behind Li Chang'e, condensing into streaks of crystal clear sword energy. The batsuit Li Chang'e was wearing had a blood hole as big as a bowl on the shoulder, with blood spraying out from inside. Li Chang'e's expression showed no pain at all, as if the shoulder was not his and he had lost all sense of pain. I saw Li Chang'e with one hand behind his back and holding the Beifang invincible sword in his right hand. He was now 10 meters away from the Jing Jing monster. No one knew how Li Chang'e was shot down by that hail of arrows. From the state of being nailed to the ground, he instantly moved to behind the quiet monster 20 meters away. Do you know? I'm really not a scumbag. After Li Chang'e finished speaking, he smiled slightly and swept out his sword with an ordinary move. Nisnia. The battle ended in an instant. After sweeping out with the sword, it was gone. It's not that Li Chang'e is gone, it's that everything in front of him is gone. Including those arrows, including the Jing Jing monster, were all swept into blood under that sword, along with the shadow of the sword in the sky. At the feet of Li Chang'e, a bottomless ravine stretched straight into the distance, as if dividing the world into two. Li Chang'e finished drawing his sword. The fluttering hair suddenly withered, and the aura that floated out of the dust like a sword fairy disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. A wave of dizziness came over silently, making Li Chang'e's body straighten upright. He swayed a few times and almost lost his balance, which was a loss of strength. Without saying a word, he sat down on the ground, panting, and stuffed a small blue pill into his mouth. As his spiritual energy slowly recovered, Li Chang'e's face gradually returned to rosy. I almost fainted because my spiritual energy was exhausted. If I fainted, I would be dead. Li Chang'e still felt frightened when he thought of the thrill just now. Almost died. The power that Li Chang'e burst out just now is his most hidden secret and trump card recently. Why do you say recently? Because that was a trump card that was only unlocked in the last trial. In fact, no one in the entire Apocalypse Guild, including Yilin, knew that Li Chang'e ranked 99th in the Tower of Death regional server rankings. In other words, for the first time, his overall strength was ranked among the top 100 in the regional server. Although the top 100 in the entire server is far less valuable than Yilin's top 100 in the world, among the large number of senior apostles, the top 100 in the entire server are definitely smaller than the others. Of course, in Li Chang'e's comprehensive evaluation, equipment accounts for a lot of the score, but the top 100 is the top 100 and cannot be faked. Moreover, Li Chang'e refused to admit even to death that part of the reason why he was on the list was because of his equipment. Isn't it just one piece of epic equipment, one cursed enchanted weapon, 12 pieces of rare equipment, and 28 pieces of rare equipment and props? How much score can this piece of equipment account for? A more pertinent evaluation, and after thinking about it, I know that the reason why I was able to enter the top 100 in the regional server is because of Li Chang'e's hidden strength. No one knows that Li Chang'e is also a strong man who has broken the first layer of lock. He has already quietly stepped into the extraordinary ranks under conditions that no one could have imagined. He is no longer an ordinary person. While in Gawu Mountain, Li Chang'e noticed something strange. At that time, the special mechanism in the trial, ghost energy, can be turned into temporary attribute values to enhance strength. Li Chang'e discovered at that time that the ghost energy he collected could actually add points to the charm value. What does it mean when the charm value is getting higher and higher? Are you getting more handsome? Impossible. Someone once tested that after becoming an apostle, plastic surgery and disfigurement will indeed cause a slight change in the charm value, but it will never change drastically. Li Chang'e researched a lot of information and dived into the forum to observe other people's discussions. Finally, Li Chang'e came to the conclusion that in addition to handsomeness, the charm value has a great influence, such as temperament, affinity, eyes, etc. All will affect the charm value. This is a very illusory attribute value. Many people disagree. But Li Chang'e was very concerned about it. Because he has high charm. After the incident in Hading City, because Li Chang'e and Oda Mai had fought side by side, Li Chang'e became bolder and secretly asked Oda Mai about his experience in Gawu Mountain. He didn't dare to ask Yi Lin for fear that Yi Lin would notice his secret. Oda Mai clearly told Li Chang'e that the only attributes she could accumulate ghost energy points at that time were strength, agility, and spirit. Oda Wu's answer at that time instantly stunned Li Chang'e. I also understood one thing. It turns out that being handsome is his real cheat. He is a handsome man with his own cheats. Got it, got it? In every trial, Li Chang'e was silently exploring what kind of performance could make his charm value increase faster, higher, and stronger. Later Li Chang'e came to the conclusion, it's okay to show off. The bigger the pussy is, the harder the pussy is, the stronger the pussy is, as long as it survives, the more attributes will be added to the charm value in the final trial evaluation. In this way, Li Chang'e kept going further and further on the road of showing off, and could never look back. It wasn't until the last nightmare level trial that Li Chang'e's charm value finally, poof, broke through the limit. In short, he's so handsome. There is no need to elaborate on the process of breakthrough. It was a tragic story involving hundreds of rounds of battles with several female devils. In short, while breaking through the charm lock, Li Chang'e also unlocked new enhanced abilities. Acting method. Once the performance method is used, Li Chang'e will burn spiritual energy at a terrifying speed. During the duration of the ability, all his special effects, identities, and roles will temporarily become real. In other words, under the acting method, Li Chang'e will transform into a true king of overwhelming all enemies. In theory, this is the case. Li Chang'e's spiritual energy level recovered a little. Taking advantage of his free time, he closed his eyes and calculated the duration of the acting method just now. It seems like it lasted 10 seconds just now. 10 seconds of being a real man is enough. In those 10 seconds, Li Chang'e was invincible. Wow, click, click. In the messy ruins, Li Chang'e's proud laughter echoed through the sky, so happy. Click. Right now. Far away. Accompanied by a strange noise, a taller, thicker, and stronger quiet monster appeared with more holes in its body. The condensed thick arrow even had threads and spikes, and was recondensed from the black water. Stood up slowly. Shall I choke you? Li Chang'e's laughter stopped suddenly, and his smile froze on his face. After standing there for a moment, he turned around and ran away. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 583. At the same time. Kanzaki City. Everyone doesn't know. Behind Kanzaki City, there is another world. Many of them observe the address book list from time to time. There are many names that were on the internet not long ago, but have suddenly gone dark and will never be online again. It turns out that after they become ghosts, they will really die if they kill again. The survivors in Kanzaki City have never experienced death, and have been struggling with the setting of turning into ghosts after death. The entire city was submerged by the black tide. If anyone could stand down and overlook the world at this moment, he would be shocked to the point of being stunned by the scene in front of him that was like a doomsday flood. As far as the eye can see, everything in Kanzaki City, except for this mountain and the temple on the mountain, has been submerged by the dark tide. Towering buildings protruded from the surface of the black flood. Many humans were wailing and screaming at the top of the buildings. But looking at the current trend of the flood, their death would be a matter of time. This world is gone. Completely gone. Countless white monsters with twisted limbs, hideous faces, and shapes that exceeded the limits of imagination were floating in the flood. This scene, to use a metaphor, is like a pot of sesame paste sprinkled with minced garlic. It's like a black bed sheet dotted with white and pink thighs. Oh, don't tell me, it sounds a bit tempting. The dead handsome guy, whose side was unknown, stayed up all the way and took off as soon as he was told to take off. However, he alarmed the bald men in Kanzaki Temple and died tragically after having his Zen staff stuck in an anus. The remaining apostles had no choice but to fight with the bald men. The monks of Kanzaki Temple are wearing hunting robes and have good fighting ability. In terms of attributes alone, physical fitness is slightly higher than the average level of third level. Perhaps the veterans who have survived to this day are no longer rookies. In addition, they are no longer in the dark and narrow sewers. As soon as the venue becomes empty, the forest becomes the home ground of the apostles, and they begin to actively unite and cooperate. Treat the monks as monsters. Everyone, pay attention. The high defense force is on the side and in front. Have a long-range attack method and pay attention to the mental output. What the hum? That big girl is so fierce. Can you add me as a friend? Auxiliary. Auxiliary. Is there an auxiliary who can control the opponent? Don't hide your strength at this time. Otherwise, everyone, take action. Everyone, please pay attention. The weapons of these bald guys have the additional attribute of long-distance attack. Someone just flew up and was shot to death. Tank. Tank. Hold on. Don't let them break through the defense. Our back row output is super strong. Someone seems to have noticed. This trial seems a bit unlucky. Some words, whoever speaks will die. Everyone is cautious, bold, and careful. Oda-Wu was so good at killing, now that she knew that Yi-Lin was living well next door, she was not in a hurry. While sharpening the sword with the invulnerable and powerful monk, observe what false iron is doing. While chopping and chopping, Oda-Mai realized something was wrong. When she turned around, the fake Yi-Lin was still standing there, but in the blink of an eye, she disappeared. Oda-Mai is also familiar with Yi-Rin, although Yi-Rin has not explicitly told anyone about his abilities and skills. But Oda-Mai had already guessed that Yi-Rin had an ability similar to stealth. Unexpectedly, this fake Yi-Rin actually copied the real Yi-Rin's ability. I lost it? Oda-Mai was a little angry, her physical strength had recovered a lot just now. Turning around among the angry monks, he used his secret power and cleared the area. In the forest, everyone retreated while fighting. With the cooperation of the group, the various skills and props of the apostles were obviously more suitable for dealing with group battles. The monks retreated steadily, leaving many corpses of monks along the way. Incidentally, the Black Flood is about to come, and everyone no longer dares to hide their strength, and in a rare moment, they cooperate without reservation. Of the only 9 remaining, 8. Originally, Muto Iron was considered one, but after paddling, he disappeared. Among the 8 apostles, Mai Oda performed the most outstandingly. To be precise, the word outstanding is no longer enough to describe the ferocity of Oda Mai. Perhaps unprecedented is more appropriate. This means that when Oda Mai slashes down, the front is empty, which is unprecedented, and the people behind are afraid that she will go crazy again, so they turn around and stab their own people a few times, so they don't dare to follow and keep a relatively safe distance. This is unprecedented. Remember this woman deeply. Someone was hiding behind and secretly swore, if we encounter him again in the future, we will hide to death. Except for Oda Mai. Among the 8 survivors, Xiang Bassian and others also performed well. Xiang Bassian wore gloves made of unknown material on his hands. After no longer hiding his strength, he finally began to show his terrifying side. Even the monk's golden Zen staff pointed at the fist was easily blocked by the fist. Wherever the wind of the fist swept, the trees broke and fell in pieces. Visually, the lethality was not much weaker than Oda Mai. Chen Xiaoxiu's body was very strange. There were bright green vines sticking out of her body. The vines were covered with sharp thorns like rose stems. The monk who was scratched by the sharp thorns of the flower vine instantly looked sluggish, and green bubbles even appeared on his bare forehead. Some people secretly speculated that what Chen Xiaoxiao used was most likely to strengthen the poison aspect. Chu Yalian didn't know what type of enhancement it was. When he activated the skill, his 2 eyes turned into strange vertical pupils. He was holding a cute cat hammer and was quick in his movements, hitting anyone he saw. As soon as the golden Zen staff in the monk's hand collided with the cat hammer, it was instantly knocked out. Come back again, knock it back again, back and forth. But this is not the scariest thing. The most shocking thing is Chu Yalian's clothes. The clothes seem to have the property of attracting attention. When she moves a little, the clothes ripple in waves. Whether it is a monk or a teammate, he couldn't help but be attracted to his eyes, which relieved a lot of pressure from the force in front. Wang Yang's fishnet stocking attack is also very eye-catching. One person's legs were running unimpeded. Although she was a little embarrassed when attacked by a large number of monks, her fishnet stocking's long legs swept by and actually sent out light patterns like swords. Many monks were careless and died under the joint attack of Wang Yang and Oda Mai. All in all, even if they are both 3rd order and 4th order apostles, they still have obvious strength stratification. If we say that Yilin is at the top of the pyramid of this class, so those who can survive to this day are those who are below the top and only a few 100 million points lower than the top of the pyramid. About 10 minutes later, after the apostle team massacred 66 monks, Oda Mai and others finally reached the top of the mountain. The stone steps were stained with blood and corpses were spread all the way. Everyone knows that if a monk dies, he will most likely transform into a corpse, and they don't dare to stay too long. Among the remaining 8 people, 1 more person was lost during the climb up the mountain. Speaking of which, the man's death was a bit dramatic, and he didn't have to die in the first place. When everyone was killing each other on the mountainside, the man who didn't know who gave him the courage suddenly crossed the front row and shouted, "Everyone, hold on, I have a big move, I need to get close to release it, cover me." Deep blue. In fact, it is good to be willing to enlarge the move, which means there is no paddling. But this ultimate move happened to be placed near Oda Mai. Oda Mai was in a state of excitement at that time. The sword moves were released, but the man happened to pass by Oda Mai. After Mai, Oda slowly typed a question mark, without any hesitation, and unwilling to waste her energy, she killed the teammate who was about to use the ultimate move. Anyway, in her opinion, there is not much difference in the result between cutting by yourself and the opponent using amplified moves. Anyway, although the process was somewhat tortuous, with the close cooperation of the apostles, the remaining 7 people finally got their wish and reached the top of the mountain. Here is a temple with historical charm. I don't know how many years the temple has been on this mountain. There are small buildings with tile roofs in a well-proportioned manner. Around the yard, an old tree with the height of several people was planted a few meters apart. The surface of the bluestone bricks is faintly glowing, and has been polished with patina over time. The remaining dozen monks had been waiting in the temple for a long time. Their bald heads reflected the faint light, like light bulbs with insufficient voltage, dotting the darkness of the temple. On the way up the mountain, most of the monks at Kanzaki Temple had been killed. In the temple, the remaining dozen or so monks posed no threat. They all looked miserable. In the end, they were all killed and the whole temple was reunited. Everyone is looking around. If I guess correctly, the clues to the mission should be hidden in the temple. After all the monks were dead, Yilin appeared from nowhere and said to everyone with a smile, "Grass." Xiang Baxian became angry as soon as he saw Yilin. He didn't see this guy the whole time. At that time, Xiang Baxian thought that Oda Wu had killed even his own captain by chopping. Unexpectedly, all the monks were killed, and he came out to show off his presence. "Why are you such a bitch?" Not only Xiang Baxian, but also the other apostles who were more or less injured and worked hard to kill monsters all looked at Yilin angrily. Along the way, Muto Iron's performance was really like a real wolf. Lao, Fang, Yin, stick, by. He would not take action if he could, and he would go to the extreme. However, his strength was mysterious and terrifying. It makes other people so jealous that they dare not speak out in anger. Faced with questions from everyone except Mai Oda, Yilin pointed at the taciturn Mai Oda not far away and explained with a smile, "I'm a standard spiritual player. Why do you think I took my teammates from that place? Fish it out? It consumes a lot of money. Also, I'm giving you a friendly reminder." Yilin turned his gaze to the outside of the temple, his eyes dark and deep. "There is not much time left for us. When Wang Yang heard this, his expression changed slightly. He jumped up and climbed to the top of the old tree. Condescendingly, when she looked at the surrounding scene, her cold face suddenly broke out into a cold sweat. With a white expression on her face, "No, this city is all filled with ghosts." Chen Xiaoxiao didn't believe it and couldn't imagine what it meant. Using the poison ivy, she reached the top of another ancient tree, looked down, and fell to the ground without saying a word. "What's going on?" Xiang Baxian asked. Chen Xiaoxiao said with a gloomy face, "There is no time to explain, find it quickly. Regardless of whether the guy's body is here or not, any clues that may be helpful, we have no other choice." Chen Xiaoxiao and Wang Yang saw the same stunning scene. As far as the eye can see, a flood of pure black like splashing ink submerges everything. Densely packed ghosts floated on the dark water. In the entire world, only a circle around Kanzaki Temple is left. Countless black tentacles are extending towards the mountain. Huge and twisted creatures, waiting for opportunities to move in the darkness and in the tide. Kanzaki City is gone. The only thing they can still set foot on now is the mountain at their feet, this temple, and this small area. They have no other choice. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 584. The few survivors searched Kanzaki Temple. They dared to swear to their conscience that they had never moved so neatly in their lives. There was no one in the old buildings. Here, Chu Yalian discovered something strange in an old house. At this point, she didn't dare to keep the information to herself, let alone explore it alone for fear of something happening. So he made a prompt decision and notified others. These days, there are not many apostles who are so selfless and willing to share. The apostles who were scattered in search reunited. The dark room was filled with candles. The light of the candle did not give people any warmth. Instead, it swayed unsteadily in the absence of wind, giving off an eerie feeling. It's filled with talisman paper. In the center, there is a jar. That material! Someone exclaimed. That material does look too familiar. It was exactly the same as the Pandora's box stuffed with corpses in the sewer air raid shelter of Kanzaki Middle School. If you say there is nothing fishy, no one will believe it. Although the atmosphere at the scene was strange, everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. Just find it, just find it. It's much better than finding nothing at all. In a small building with only a few dozen square meters, everyone is crowded together. There is a circle of white threaded cloth with blood-lettered paper hanging on it, which seems to be a ritual, isolating the jar from the world, like a circle sealing something. Xiang Bassian and others stretched out their necks and took a look. Although the situation was urgent, their own lives were obviously more important. No one dared to rush forward rashly. After all, enough people have died in this trial, and no one is willing to step forward and be the next to die. No one can guarantee that those who have died will be able to return to their original pink shape with the help of the repair function when they return. Maybe they are really gone? In the small building where the jars are placed, a neat solid wood bookshelf stands on all four walls. On the bookshelf, there are some old thread-bound books scattered here and there. In the era of this group of apostles, this kind of book bound with thick lines can be regarded as an antique. Many people have never even seen it. What's in that jar? Someone asked in confusion. Muto Iron walked out of the darkness again, came behind everyone, and said with a smile, "Don't you think it's strange why those bald men are so obsessed with Gaiageamime? It's very possible that there is something about Gaiageamime herself. Kind of a weird place. Also, there are many problems with the existence of Pandora's box itself." Yulin casually said a few mysterious words, stood by the door, his eyes fell on the jar covered with talisman paper not far away, and smiled slightly. "If I am not wrong, all the answers here are hidden there." The survivors looked at each other. They subconsciously feel that not a single punctuation mark of a sinister spiritual side's words can be trusted. This is experience. But Yulin has no reason to lie to them. Who the hell doesn't want to get out alive? Everyone was silent for a while. Xiang Bassian squinted and pondered for a few seconds. He looked around, fixed his gaze on the old thread-bound books around him, and said quickly, "At this time, I can't be in a hurry, let's look for clues." "Good." The others scratched their heads, but they decisively listened to Yulin and Xiang Bassian's suggestions. Without the impetus of a mission, no one dares to act at will. On the contrary, Xiang Bassian's proposal was the most suitable for the current situation. Everyone quickly dispersed and searched the bookshelves. Wang Yang walked to a bookshelf in the corner in silence, and ran his fingers over a thread-bound book without opening it. Suddenly, when her fingertips passed over one of the books, her expression suddenly froze. She suppressed the ecstasy in her heart and pretended to be calm and carefully held the thread-bound book in her hand. "This is actually a skill book." Wang Yang rubbed the cover of the old thread-bound book. She did not open it, but the item attributes that appeared in front of him made him understand what was recorded in the book. It is said that the skill book is a very rare prop in trials. Once found, you can learn new skills from the skill book. There is no risk, no consumption, and everything is available with a click of a small hand. Sent. Wang Yang looked calm and quietly put the skill book into the storage space while no one else was paying attention to what was going on her side. Once the items in the storage space belong to her, no one can take them away. Wang Yang didn't dare to take down the skill book to learn skills. She knew that the movement when taking the skill book was a bit obvious. Everyone knows that people die for money and birds die for food. Wang Yang clearly understands the temperament of this senior apostle. Making a fortune in silence is the way to go. Many people have found something different on their bookshelf. This is an unexpected surprise. In addition to being the place where the jar is placed, this place is also the library of Kanzaki Temple. The collections inside are dazzling and dazzling. Someone found a lot of weird classics on blacksmithing techniques, ventriloquism, postures, recipes, music, rope skills, etc. from the bookshelf. Regardless of whether it is useful or not, put it away and talk about it later. Many times, the gains from trials cannot be reflected in a short period of time. These classics that cannot be collected in the real world may, after being thoroughly understood, play a decisive role in certain special scenes. Chu Yalian, with a red face and charming eyes, hid a classic book on the highest realm of rope art. He glanced around and saw that everyone except Oda Mai and Yilin were concentrating on tossing the bookshelves. When no one paid attention to the movements on his side, Chu Yalian secretly breathed a sigh of relief and continued to search for important clues on the bookshelf. Right now, an ancient book with the title Secret of Immortality came into Chu Yalian's eyes. Yo! Ancient Martial Arts Secrets. This generation of apostles has experienced more or less the influence of ancient martial arts. Chu Yalian could tell at a glance that there was something wrong with this book, and was secretly happy in her heart. She originally thought it was some awesome cultivation secret book, but when she opened it and took a look, she couldn't help but exclaimed, "You guys, come here quickly. I seem to have found something amazing." Others reluctantly put down the ancient books in their hands. The information above is too comprehensive. It can be called a library of ancient and modern strange things. Someone unexpectedly discovered a vivid and lifelike erotic picture in a hidden corner. But that's not important. It's still the trial that matters. When Chu Yalian exclaimed loudly, he attracted everyone's attention. Xiang Bassian put away the erotic picture with regret. Ahem, this is an antique and has collectible value. He walked up to Chu Yalian with a stern expression, and asked loudly, "What did you find?" Chu Yalian's face looked slightly pale. She bit her lower lip. She wanted to tell the contents of the first few pages, but when she thought of the records in The Secret of Immortality, she couldn't say a word. He could only push the ancient book into Xiang Bassian's hands. "You will know after you see it for yourselves." Except for Oda Mai and Muto Iron, everyone gathered together to look at the ancient books. People who don't understand the scene might mistakenly think that it's a group of hot-blooded boys watching some forbidden honey scroll in secret. In ancient books, there are ancient writings and markings that look like they were written recently. Someone wrote the name Gaiakinmai on it in a scrawled handwriting. This is the key clue. Stone hammer. In the small building, everyone's heads were crowded together, watching together. For 3 full minutes, the dark room fell into an eerie silence. There was only the sound of the wind blowing from outside the house, and the sound of Xiang Bassian turning pages carefully. From time to time, there are rapid breathing and wheezing sounds from the apostles, occasionally breaking the dead silence, but adding a bit of eerie atmosphere out of thin air. 3 minutes later, Xiang Bassian gritted his teeth, raised his head, and asked in a sinister tone, "Does anyone have a skill similar to resurrecting a whipped corpse? It doesn't have to be very realistic, as long as the corpse can move." Holy shit! I want to kill those bald heads again. Others shook their heads and expressed regret. Although other people are not as indignant as Xiang Bassian, they always have similar thoughts. All because the contents recorded in the secret volume of Secret of Immortality they found were too horrifying. Moreover, what the bald heads did to Gaiajiamaimi was so outrageous that anyone with a little bit of conscience would be tempted to kill those sanctimonious bald heads 1,000 times over. What is recorded in the Secret of Immortality is not an ancient martial arts secret book at all, nor is it a skill book or anything like that. But a kind of evil method. In this world, there is a special race of people called foreigners. Strangers are stared at by the void and cursed by the world. Ancient books say that the most obvious manifestation of strangers is that many weird and strange things will happen around them. In every era and history, only one stranger can exist at the same time. there is a powerful wishes flowing in the stranger's body. Some mysterious power from the void will desperately realize the subconscious wish of the stranger. This is also the origin of all the weird things. Once a stranger dies, another stranger will be born. The biography of strangers recorded in ancient books looks a bit like unreliable classical online novels. But Master Yunfen believed it. He was even obsessed with it and spent his whole life looking for strangers tirelessly. Finally, he found Gayajiamaimi. Master Yunfen is a pervert. Everyone sighed with emotion. Through the scrawled handwriting on the ancient books, Master Yunfen seems to be a perverted voyeur. He secretly peeked into Gayajiamaimi's life, and recorded every bit of it in the markings on the side of the ancient book. The densely packed text is like a condensation of Gayajiamaimi's life. Reading it carefully, one will get goosebumps all over the body, and be surprised and angry at the same time. Not only that, after Master Yunfen learned about the existence of the secret method of secret of immortality, he stuffed Gayajiamaimi's body into the jar to create the so-called Pandora's box. As long as it is soaked for 1,000 days, the jar will be destroyed. The wish power accumulated in it is enough to allow Master Yunfen to live forever, and then realize his dream of immortality and transcend this world. Even the apostle, whose hands were stained with blood, felt psychologically uncomfortable after seeing this cruel way of treating Gayajiamaimi. Killing people can only be done with a nod of the head. Even if they don't understand the hatred, they can only stab the corpse a few more times and poop in the process. But someone like Master Yunfen stuffed an innocent girl into a jar and brewed it as medicinal wine after Gayajiamaimi died. This kind of perverted behavior was simply cruel and outrageous. I understand, I understand. That's it? That's it? Everyone suddenly realized the same thing. It turns out that everything in this trial came from a pervert. This is retribution. But we are innocent. Several apostles expressed their grievances in their hearts. It is said that Master Yunfen is dead, and Gayajiamaimi has nowhere to vent her resentment, so she comes to take revenge on the entire world. Ridiculous. No one noticed. When they gathered together, they were discussing the abnormality of Yunfen Master and observing Gayajiamaimi's life. Muto Iron silently came to Oda Mai, smiled slightly, and whispered. By the way, Xiao Wu, I wonder if you have noticed Muto Yuren looked directly into Oda Mai's eyes with gentle eyes, smiling kindly. No, it should be said that he actually has a certain affection for you. This kind of extraordinary dependence, actually, I don't quite understand, what is this called? Friendship? Family affection? Or? Click. Oda Mai suddenly gritted her teeth, pursed her lips, and there were traces of waves in her cold eyes. Muto Yilan waved his hand again. Forget it, it's not important to say this now. You don't have to believe me now, but I have a secret to tell you about this mission. I won't lie to you. Muto Iron's expression was sincere, serious, and simple. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 585. Xiang Bassian silently closed the secret of immortality. Now it seems that the clues should be obvious. Master Yunfen made 2 jars. One jar was placed underground in Kanzaki Middle School to stuff poor Xiaomei. As for the second one, someone asked, could it be part of Xiaomei's body? Vomit. Upon hearing this shocking guess, some people couldn't help but make a gagging sound. Possible. It may also be the boss's weakness. Someone said a nonsense, no matter what, the things in this jar must be very critical and important. There is no spiritual side among the remaining apostles. So they could only think divergently, use everyone's brains to form a spiritual brain, and started brainstorming. Then what should we do? Just smash this jar and complete the task. I always feel that things are not that simple. There are many places that can be considered. That makes sense. You're right. Awesome. Keep going. Yes, Yes, I think we should take a long-term view and slowly. A group of people were discussing. Xiang Baxian couldn't help but stood up suddenly. In extreme anger, he accidentally put the secret of immortality into the storage space without knowing it. Xiang Baxian squinted his eyes and expressed his thoughts loudly and firmly, "You're going to take it slow. If you go any slower, the evil black water outside will drown us all. According to me." At this time, Chu Yalian no longer pretended to be coquettish, but straightened up his chest and shook his. For a moment, everyone involuntarily closed their mouths and became quiet, looking at Chu Yalian's majestic chest with solemn expressions, listening to what she wanted to say. Xiang Baxian also closed his mouth. He didn't want to say what he wanted to say after, as I say, he didn't want to say it. What do you think? What can you say with your muscular brain? If you ask me, it would be better to ask the mental side. The spiritual side. There is no spiritual side among us people. Oh no. Suddenly someone remembered. On the spiritual side, it seems to be there. That Yi, Lin, etc., aren't they just mentally disturbed? It has no sense of existence. Finally, someone remembered Yi Lin's existence. Perhaps it was because Yi Lin behaved in a low-key manner, or perhaps because Yi Lin was paddling deliberately. In the rush, everyone forgot that there was such a person. But anyway, I finally remember it now. Click. Wow. A sudden voice interrupted the apostle's argument. Not far away. There was a sound like something fragile breaking. The sound rippled back and forth in the small room. Everyone couldn't help but look back. It doesn't matter if you don't see it. At first glance, everyone was tight. Me. Mud. Horse. Xiang Baxian's hair stood up in a flash, and he ducked back to the door. No one expected that he, a powerful apostle, could have such terrifying reaction speed. At the reminder of Xiang Baxian's actions, everyone else suddenly woke up and quickly retreated to the door, standing with Xiang Baxian, weapons drawn one after another, ready to deal with any changes. Never imagined. That woman. That crazy woman named Oda Mai chopped the jar down without saying a word. You can't really cut someone's hand and it's itchy, right? At least say hello so that people can be mentally prepared. There is no precaution at all, it is very scary. The blood-red jar was shattered on the ground. The ground is full of debris. The material of the jar is very ordinary. Ignoring the talisman paper and patterns on it, it looks no different from the sour jar used for making pickles in the last century. Oda Mai held two swords and stood in front of the debris on the ground with an expressionless face, ready to fight. After the jar broke into pieces, a round piece of meat fell from the jar. The surface of that strange piece of meat was dark but glowing, unlike human flesh. The surface of the meatball is smooth and wrinkled. Dark mucus is constantly seeping out from the surface of the meatball. But the strange thing is that except for this black meatball, there is no other liquid component in the jar, and it is unknown where the mucus on the surface of the meatball comes from. In the sewers of Kanzaki Middle School, Mai Oda watched with her own eyes as Muto Iron broke Pandora's box and Gaijiamimi's body floated out of the jar. So, is this smooth, wrinkled piece of meat also part of Gaijiam's beauty? What part? Oda Mai slowly typed a question mark. But she didn't dwell on this issue for too long, and the next question emerged. Cut? Not to cut? Of course, Oda Mai would not have thought that after chopping up the weird jar, a meatball popped out from the fragments of the jar, which made Oda Mai think about whether it could be chopped. In fact, Oda Mai's psychological activities at this moment cannot be completely attributed to hesitation. To give a simple well-known example, it is like walking out of a deserted alley corner and a woman dressed in voluptuous clothes suddenly walks out. No matter who it is, they will subconsciously think in their minds such as, is this woman serious? This woman is not serious, doubts like who is she? Do I need more money? Does this woman have any plans for me? This is a process of judgment that humans instinctively produce when they suddenly encounter the unknown. All in all, the moment that smooth, slippery, and wrinkled flesh ball appeared, Oda Mai's movements paused for a moment. But after a moment, Oda Mai decided to follow her heart and follow her usual style. Since it is not something that cannot be cut, it means it can be cut. Just chop it up to test the quality of the meat, there's nothing to think about. If you can't cut it, you will suffer a loss. If you can't cut it, you will be fooled, and you may still gain experience points. Slice. Clang. Hiss. Oda Mai casually made a sword drawing slash that was not considered a secret. The sword flashed. Hizzy. The next second, Oda Mai's murderous demon sword fell into the air. Before her knife had time to cut the wet, smooth, and wrinkled weird meatball into pieces, the meatball suddenly started to squirm crazily, and with a weird sound, the meatball bounced off the ground with a boom. Get up and attack Oda Mai on the face. At this moment, it was too late to pull out another knife. In the flash of lightning, Oda Mai didn't react slowly, and subconsciously blocked her face with her left hand. Hizzy. The meatball suddenly came to life, screamed strangely, and licked the back of Mai Oda's hand with a pop sound. In an instant, a biting coldness invaded the whole body along the back of his left hand. Oda Mai looked down and saw that the meatball was squirming crazily. Countless tentacle-like pseudopods protruded from the meatball, piercing into Oda Mai's skin and lying on her body. On the back of the hand. When Oda Mai's eyes fell on the meatball that was close to the back of Oda Mai's left hand suddenly cracked a gap in the middle, and cold evil light leaked out from the gap. Like little stars, 1, no, 2, 3, 4, 5. Buzz buzz. In an instant, time seemed to stop completely in the world she recognized in front of Oda Mai's ears and eyes. From his mind, there came a sound, like a whisper full of evil thoughts coming from countless different people's mouths. Oda Mai only felt her head buzzing, as if something slippery had penetrated into her brain along her ears, eyes, mouth, and nostrils. Turn and turn in your mind, treating your living brain as an ocean to wander and swim. Behind that gap are countless weird eyes. Each pupil is only the size of a grain of rice, but they are densely packed together, forming a terrifying scene like a honeycomb. Fortunately, Oda Mai didn't have trypophobia, otherwise the densely packed little eyes would have scared her to the point where she couldn't move. The ancient low and evil whispers whispered in Oda Mai's ears. At the same time, outside the door, Muto Iron floated into the air. He looked at Kanzaki City, which was completely dyed black, and gently stroked his side, as if touching the ends of someone's hair. I'm not lying to you, because I have the same memory. Only, compared with those illusory emotions, what I desire more is to live. This gift can be regarded as compensation for you, Xiao Wu. Temple. Inside the house. In the eyes of others. Such a strange scene occurred. Oda Mai first got mad and chopped the jar into pieces with a knife. Then, Oda Mai seemed to be preparing to chop again, as if she wanted to chop something. But the sword didn't swing out, it just stayed there, assuming an unpredictable posture. After another second, Oda Mai gave them the feeling that their hands were stained with something dirty and black. But because the light was dim, it was almost the same as being blind, and others couldn't see clearly what was on Mai Oda's hand. Mai Oda's movement remained still for 3 seconds. 3 seconds later, under the confused eyes of others, Mai Oda, who was still, moved again. But this movement frightened the others. Oda Mai raised the knife with her right hand and cut off her left forearm with one stroke. Oda Mai's severed arm was like a flexible snake, twisting on the ground for a while. Others stared wide-eyed and looked from a distance, not understanding what was going on. So cruel, you won't even let yourself go. Xiang Bassian was stunned and muttered to himself, thinking he was seeing an illusion. Hoo hoo. Ding. After Oda cut off her own arm immediately and without a moment's pause, it was seriously doubted whether she had a sense of pain, fluttered for a while, and stopped completely. Huh, huh, huh. Oda Mai half knelt on the ground, supporting her body with a knife, breathing heavily. No one knew what happened to her in just a few seconds. Oda Mai looked down at the bulging and twisted texture on the blade, a hint of astonishment flashed in her usually indifferent eyes. But this shock quickly disappeared. Without saying a word, she took out a roll of clean bandages from the storage space, and skillfully used one hand to quickly bandage the bleeding broken arm to stop the bleeding. The movements are numb and extremely smooth. Hummed. Do you often cut yourself to play or something? Why are you so skilled at dressing your own wounds? Damn it! This beautiful young lady? Are you still awake and calm? Xiang Bassian asked cautiously. The scene where Mai Oda chopped off her own hand without saying a word was too cruel. No one had any doubt that this woman became ruthless and chopped everyone to death. She even chopped off her own hand so decisively and neatly. What else can't this crazy woman do? Oda Mai raised her head and was about to say something. Crash dash. The sound of turbulent tides rushed in from all directions. Ah, this? Everyone was stunned. Now I can no longer care whether Oda Mai kills or not. Black water has reached Mount Kanzaki. Ah, so much water. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 586. A cloud-piercing arrow. Thousands of troops are coming to meet you. This was Su Anjing's expectation. A lot of people came. But the president she expected most was missing. Su Jingjing had a sullen face. Although she had expected that the signal she sent would alert the other apostles. But I didn't expect that they would come so unanimously. A simple count. There are at least 30 apostles hiding in the dark, dealing with ghosts. In addition to his own teammates, everyone else who is still alive and can probably come. What's there? A tall apostle with a scar on his face stepped forward and asked. Seeing Su Jingjing's face darkened and silent, he thought she was unhappy when she saw him, and pointed at his face. Don't be so outspoken. We met in the archives that day, Zhenzian Hui. God is so virtuous. Su Anjing looked at the fierce scar on Zhenzian Hui's face, but she didn't see where his virtuousness lay. That night everyone was busy looking for information and had no time to introduce more. Su Jingjing took a look and seemed to be somewhat impressed. But the president whom he missed so much lost contact again, and Su Anjing was not in the mood to talk nonsense with Zhenzian Hui, nor was he in the mood to complain about his name. After nodding, he said no more. 4 sides of a cube suspended in the air. There are many apostles waiting for the opportunity. They followed Su Jingjing's cloud-penetrating arrow and came here. They looked at the geometric building hanging in the air like a giant cocoon, and they all looked thoughtful. They also noticed that this place was a little different from other places. Not to mention the outrageous structure of the geometric building, the ghosts in this area are also terrifyingly dense. Although there are so many ghosts in this world, they are endless as far as the eye can see. But the number of ghosts here is several times that of other places. For example, if we talk about ghosts in ordinary areas, they are front and back. Then the ghosts in this area are squeezed into a paste from front to back, up, down, left, right, and outside, and it is difficult to distinguish the gaps between ghosts with the naked eye. It feels like these ghosts are overlapping and sticking together in more bizarre postures, as if they are gradually merging into a whole, inseparable. Of course, fusion or something is impossible to fuse, it's not that exaggerated. It's not a popular card-drawing monster battle game on the market. What's the fusion? Where is the true form of the boss hidden? A confident voice sounded from behind Su Anjing and Zhenzian Hui. Before the sound sounded, Su Jingjing and Zhenzian Hui didn't realize there was someone behind them. But when the sound came, They felt a gust of wind blowing behind them at the same time. It was accompanied by the crackling sound of electricity. They both turned their heads at the same time. Invariably, they became more vigilant. Although in this weird and unpredictable world of curiosity, ghosts are the enemies of the apostles. But experienced apostles all know that in many cases, people are more terrifying than ghosts and require more vigilance. It is you. Su Jingjing lowered the longbow in his hand slightly and curled his lips. He didn't expect to see the annoying guy here again, and he felt a little unhappy. Kudo Shinji smiled slightly, the light reflected behind his lenses, he concealed the lightning on his body, and sheathed his long sword. His pure white shirt and straight trousers had long been stained with a lot of blood, and he no longer had the look he had in Kanzaki City. But his smile still gave people the impression of a graceful old fox, pretending to be calm and calm. Do you all like to show off mentally? But it's also pretentious. It made Su Jingjing feel that the president's pussy was more rounded and natural, while this guy's pussy was even more annoying. What are you doing here? I have a suggestion. Kudo Shinji pushed up the frame and smiled. I already know how to pass this trial. What? There were many apostles hiding in the distance and eavesdropping. When they heard Kudo Shinji's words, they subconsciously expressed disbelief. But Kudo Shinji was on the mental side, and the pits in his mind were more and deeper than those on the strength and agility side. It is not impossible to think of a way to pass the level. Moreover, at the end of the trial, it doesn't hurt to listen to Kudo Shinji's how to clear the level. Then, when Kudo Shinji said these words to Su Jingjing, many apostles around him were looking at the monsters and shamelessly approached. As the saying goes, there is strength in numbers. The more than 30 surviving apostles have already experienced death, and their will has been tempered to be extremely tough. In the final stage, the hideous-looking ghosts wandering the streets were just little monsters that looked more disgusting than ordinary monsters to them. With intentional or unintentional cooperation, a group of apostles quickly cleared an open area. Gathered towards the height of the geometric building where Su Jingjing and Kudo Shinji were. Kudo Shinji seemed not to treat what he was about to say as a secret. He didn't lower his voice either, and said in a voice that was neither too loud nor too small, but just enough for others to hear clearly, I think you, the smart ones, should have discovered that these ghosts are caused by some kind of spirit in every person. Strong negative emotions materialize. There was no trace of flattery, some were proud of themselves, others quietly lowered their heads. Kudo Shinji looked at the strange geometric buildings in the distance and continued, I accidentally discovered something. These ghosts cannot be killed by ordinary means. Now many people from Kanzaki City have been sent here. Maybe, because of the fear and despair of those people, there will be more and more ghosts here, and they won't be able to kill them all. Another apostle with a whip, thin limbs, and a sullen face stepped forward and stared at Kudo Shinji in a dumb voice, Stop talking nonsense. What is the way to clear the customs you are talking about? Don't worry, I have no intention of hiding it. Kudo Shinji smiled friendly. Obviously, this is a cooperative eternal night level difficulty trial, and killing each other will only make us all, ahem. In short, we have no reason to compete at all in this trial. Of course, if you insist on passing the level evaluation, there must be one, but it is also a healthy competition, comparing who can kill more monsters, who has stronger output, and even trying to trick each other. The version has been updated, and the times have changed. This time, I have no reason to lie to you at all. Many people know that most of what the spiritual apostles say cannot be believed. But Kudo Shinji sounded sincere this time, and it sounded like the same thing. It made sense. Many people nodded secretly, saying that they could believe it for the time being. So, Kudo Shinji looked at the densely packed ghosts in the distance that were almost integrated into one. After hesitating for a moment, he expressed his thoughts, you can't kill ghosts, so let's kill. As long as more people die, the corresponding the fewer ghosts there will be. Only in this way, reducing the number of ghosts as much as possible, the safer we will be. In the end. You're crazy. Before Kudo Shinji finished speaking, Su Jingjing looked at Kudo Shinji with a look like he was looking at a monster, with a look of horror on his face. Do you know how many people there are in Kanzaki City? Even if it's not millions, how many are there? 100,000. You. Etc. After Su Anjing interrupted Kudo Shinji, another apostle next to him interrupted Su Jingjing. He had a dark face, but there were two faint glares in his eyes. What are you doing? Prove that what you said is true. Proof? Haha, Kudo Shinji couldn't help but sneered. He thought he had heard something funny, which made him amused. What proof do you need? The trial is everyone's, and your life is your own. You love Shinji, do not believe. Kudo Shinji's words made the questioner's face look very ugly. But the other party didn't refute, because anyone without cerebral palsy could hear it, and what Kudo Shinji said was also true. Believe it or not, it all depends on freedom and brain. Kudo Shinji has no obligation to tell the truth, nor is he responsible for the lives of others. He's not a doctor, and doctors don't dare to vouch for it, so why should he? At this moment, not long after Kudo Shinji finished speaking, a sudden change occurred. Waves of irregular turbulence began to stir up all around, and cracks appeared in patches on every building surface visible to the naked eye. The cracks spread, everything in front of them gradually collapsed, and the light black downpour flowed backwards. In front of everyone's eyes, a scene of collapse appeared like a doomsday. It's time to reorganize. Many apostles exclaimed. They had gained a lot of experience with the scene in front of them. They immediately drew their weapons and looked solemn, preparing to be randomly teleported. Kudo Shinji looked at the others and said the last words, however, if you must prove it, I can tell you, I tried it not long ago. After Kudo Shinji said these words, the world was reorganized. His words stirred up waves in the hearts of every apostle. It doesn't matter who he tries it on. The important thing is that Kudo Shinji has actually tried it. If you kill the main body, the corresponding ghost will die. Assuming that Kudo Shinji is not lying on this point, then this will be the most important clue to Yutong's current predicament. The apostles who were randomly teleported once again were scattered in every corner of this strange world. At the moment of appearance, everyone was faced with the attack from ghosts and monsters from all directions. But at this moment, everyone no longer had any fear. Only ghosts that cannot be killed should be feared. But what if ghosts can also feel pain, scream, pant, wail, bleed, and die? Then there is nothing to be afraid of. That'll be easy. Zhen Xianhui smiled. At first glance, her smile seemed really virtuous. There were originally 3 brothers in the Zhen family, but now he was the only one left. How miserable. Zhen Xianhui also couldn't understand why his 2 strong brothers died so quickly that people were not prepared at all. But it doesn't matter, the dead are gone, the living should be encouraged. Zhen Xianhui will never, ahem. I almost posted the flag again. Zhen Xianhui rushed into a group of enchanting female students with many hands and big white legs. There are dying human beings inside. There are ghosts with crazy fights. Zhen Xianhui took out a small blade made of pure steel from the storage space. The moment he touched the blade, starting from his palm, the color of metal quickly spread throughout his body. In the blink of an eye, Zhen Xianhui transformed from a flesh and blood body into a brave little King Kong made of fine steel, indestructible and unstoppable. This is the trump card he is proud of. Material assimilation. Since you are a non-chief, this is an S-level skill suitable for melee combat that he managed to acquire with great difficulty. It can be called a bug-like ability. One after another, twisted ghosts rushed towards Zhen Xianhui. Kakaka dash. The ghost's claws and sharp teeth bit Zhen Xianhui's body, making an unpleasant clicking sound. Zhenxianhui seemed to be in an uninhabited land, ignoring all the ghost attacks and killing the humans behind cover everywhere. Behind the bunker, there are teachers, students, workers, office workers, nurses, and housewives. They didn't expect that a guy who looked like a human would actually kill a same kind. As a high-level veteran of Zhenxianhui, killing ordinary people can be said to be a dimensionality reduction strike. Killing ghosts may not be that easy, but it is so easy to kill a housewife who has no strength to kill a chicken. Kill kill kill. Each head was beaten to death by Zhenxianhui. Immediately afterwards, with the death of these humans, in front of Zhenxianhui, and even in other corners of the world of curiosity, ghosts disappeared out of thin air, leaving no traces. It turns out that this is the real way to kill ghosts. Ha ha ha. Zhenxianhui was so excited that she laughed loudly, and the gaps between her fingernails were covered with sticky red and white things. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 587. Please, help me. Jia Yano knelt deeply in front of Yi Lin in a standard kneeling posture, like an angry and aggrieved little daughter-in-law. When she raised her head again, Tanino Chia's face had turned into Gyakotomi. There was a faint sense of vicissitudes of life in her young and pretty face that was not something she could have at this age. Yi Lin remained unmoved, her expression still indifferent as before. Only one of his hands secretly held the destruction revolver. He didn't scare Gayajiamimi just now, because Yi Lin knew that there was something wrong with him. If Gayajiamime really planned to change into Ling Yi, Yi Lin would not hesitate to do everything before Gayajiamime could complete the transformation. The trick will break her down. Yi Lin knew that something was wrong with him, or in other words, something was wrong with Ling Yi, whom he was once so familiar with. Yi Lin couldn't do anything to any Ling Yi, even if he knew it was fake. Gayajiamime seemed to be showing her sincerity by this. She looked at Yiren with pleading eyes, waiting for Yiren's answer. Each trial has different choices and different ways to pass the level. Looking at Gayajiamimi's face, Yiren couldn't help but think of the famous sayings regarded as golden rules by many senior people. What is Pandora's box? Gayajmimi was silent for a moment, and finally pointed to herself with a bit of reluctance. But could it be that I was pinching the air just now? Yairum pointed at Gayajiami's neck with an expressionless expression. He pinched me just now. But there was no reminder that the task was completed. His previous move was an attempt to do just that. Otherwise, do you really think that Yi Lin is so cruel, pinching her neck and playing with it? Will not. Cannot say. Gayajmimi seemed to see through Yiren's thoughts and shook her head. It's okay now. After saying that, tears rolled down Gayajiamime's eyes for a long time, and tears fell down again. I felt pity for her, which made me feel heartbroken. But perhaps because Yi Lin's bloodline is not pure, there is no heartache. He pondered for a moment, stretched out his hand, and moved his eyes from bottom to top, planning to choose a position. Finally, for safety's sake, Yiren rubbed her hands on Gayajiami's hair several times. After touching it, as expected, main mission 2 is completed. Gayajiamimi didn't lie to him. Yi Lin looked at the new main mission prompt that appeared in front of her, her eyes flickered slightly, but she slowly released her finger from the trigger of destruction revolver. Seeing Yiren's actions, Gayajiamimi breathed a sigh of relief. How long are you going to kneel? When Lord Lin is willing to save me. Then you keep kneeling, I'm ready to leave. Gayajiamimi was speechless for a moment, but she still stood up obediently and sat down opposite Yi Lin. Yi Lin's eyes were dazzled. There was a cute pink mug in front of Gayajiamimi. She was lowering her head, holding a black spoon, and knocked on the edge of the mug, making a crisp ding. Voice. Ding. 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 One person and one ghost, in silence, the clear tinkling sound echoed in the valley house. Please Rincon, save me. Gayajiami begged again. How to save? Cannot say. Why? Cannot say. Yulin raised her head and looked at the Tanyi house, which was filled with a warm and happy atmosphere, and thought thoughtfully, is this the reason why you are hiding here? Yes. Hidden here, it, can't quite hear it. What is it? Cannot say. Yulin shook his head. Combining what Muto Iron said and Gayakomi's performance, Iron understood clearly. Gayajiam's beautiful goodness is afraid of a certain existence. This existence is the source of all these evil thoughts. Hidden here, Gayajiam could only think of ways to ask Yiren to save her by playing riddles, but she didn't dare to say anything, didn't dare to speak, didn't even dare to think too much, for fear of being discovered by that existence. But Gayajiamime raised her head, her face pale. If you were Rincon, you would definitely understand. Yeah. Ding 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 ding. Gayajiamime knocked it hard a few times, and the cup shattered, and the steaming hot water spilled all over the table. The water stains on the tabletop flowed and spread randomly. I don't know if it was a coincidence or not, but the water stains were distributed in strange shapes on the clean tabletop. The flowing water stains stretched out sharp and twisted shapes on the tabletop to all sides of the table edge, which looked like weird ones. The tentacles are disturbing to look at. The cup was broken. Gayajiami stared blankly at the spoon in her hand. After a while, when Gayajmimi raised her head again, she looked behind Yiren, as if she had lost focus, and murmured to herself, only Rincon can do that. One person and one ghost fell silent again. Gayajmimi said no more. I don't know if it's because I don't dare to speak, or because I have nothing to say. Right now. Click. Cracks appeared on the walls of Tanyi house. The furniture in the house shuddered and fell to the ground. The surface of the motionless bodies of the two parents also appeared to be broken like glass bottles. Yulin looked at the sudden changes in this space, looked at Gayajiam's beautiful thoughts, and asked, what's going on? Gayajiami's face hardened and she cried so loudly that she showed her hand hidden under the table in front of Yiren. The white palm, starting from the 5 fingers, was rapidly turning black at a certain speed. Rincon, I can't hold it anymore. Pure black and pure white, that's how it is. Yilin closed her eyes and remembered the words Muto Yilin used to deceive Su Anjing and others. After thinking for a moment, he roughly surmised the changes in the outside world. I don't know if it was Muto Iron's push, or the choices of other apostles, that made this trial gradually move toward a more disastrous ending. Muto Iron did not deceive Su Anjing and others. Gayajiamimi was split into 2 pieces by some force. Pure black and pure white. Black and white represent Gayajiam's evil thoughts and good thoughts respectively. The evil part is so powerful that it almost dominates the entire Kanzaki city. That's why I had good thoughts about Gayajiami, and in this way, I hid here and lived an elusive life. But there is a certain connection between black and white. Once the world is blackened by evil thoughts, the power of the corresponding evil thoughts Gayajiam beauty will become too strong to be controlled, and will gradually erode the Gayajiam beauty hiding here. The kind-hearted Gayajiamimi, because she was at an absolute disadvantage, used various obscure ways to seek help from Yiren. I don't know if it's because Yiren seems to be more reliable, or because of other deeper reasons. In short, Gayajiam's kind thoughts took the initiative to find Yiren. Let Yilin embark on a completely different strategy route from other apostles. Gayajiamimi's hands were getting darker and darker. In the blink of an eye, the pitch blackness spread from the palms to the forearms, and bulging black blood vessels extended on Gayajiamimi's fair arms. Where do I get out of here? Yilin stood up. Gayajiamimi's face became paler and paler, her thin body trembled slightly, and she pointed to the door with difficulty. Rincon, hurry up, Go back the way you came. Am I stupid? Yilin was stunned. Original route? Wouldn't it be necessary to walk through the maze again? But after thinking about it, Yilin understood why. Even if the situation was urgent, Gaijiamimi's kind thoughts would not dare to unravel the maze of space. The layers of the maze are like the protective shell of kindness. Once it is lifted, the kindness of Gaijiamimi will be discovered by it in an instant, and she will encounter unimaginable and shocking things. When Yiren opened the door, Gaijiam's kind thoughts suddenly used all her strength to shout at Yiren's back. Rinkun! Yilin paused for a moment and turned around. A smile appeared on Gaijiamimi's pale face. She stretched out her fingers tremblingly and poked her soft chest, making a small pit. The place Lin is looking for is here. Yilin opened the door, her face expressionless. In the blink of an eye, Yilin reappeared on the street where Tananoya was. Pedestrians all around disappeared. Behind him, the door of Taninoya was closed. Yilin didn't waste any time and returned along the original path. Follow the compass when arriving. There is no need to waste the precious usage times of Kangxing compass when you return. Yilin can still clearly remember the location and order of a mere 101 doors. If he couldn't even do this simple thing, it would be a waste of his mental attributes that transcended human limits. On the way, Nai Hongxiu and Bai Xiaoi took the initiative to float out from behind Yilin. Master, I feel something is wrong. Nai Hongxiu said. Bai Xiaoi echoed from the side, yes, there is something wrong with the master. Xiaobai's brain seems to be broken. He can't even distinguish between subject, predicate, and object when speaking. Yilin didn't have time to argue too much with Xiaobai. She quickly walked between the doors and asked with a smile, oh, what's wrong? Nai Hongxiu had a straight face, her expression solemn, she seems to be able to see us. Mom is right. Moreover, she actually pressed her breasts. Bai Xiaoi spat on Yilin's head with a look of disgust on her face. How dare you do such a thing in front of us? Bai Xiaoi seemed a little displeased with Gaijiam's beauty. Yilin didn't look back, silently stuffing the vomiting Bai Xiaoi back, and said as he walked, when you said this, it reminded me that I was targeted because of this matter. Yes. Of course she can see you, otherwise, she wouldn't have asked me for help in that way. Bai Xiaoi. Nai Hongxiu. I don't know how long it took. In the chaotic space of time and space, Yilin traveled back 101 times and returned to that fragmented world. He already knew the essence of this place. This is the embodiment of Gaijiamimi's inner world, Gaijiamimi's resentment and her evil. And when Yilin completed the second main mission, the third main mission was already spawned, which was to eliminate the Wraith spirit Gaijiami. Wraith. That is the official definition of the beauty of Gaijiam from the tower. Spirit. Wraith. No master spirit. Yilin has seen many similar existences. In Xiao 11's words, this type of existence can essentially be classified as a mental state. The place where Yilin came out was not the original exit, but a completely different shape. Has the world been reorganized? Yilin observed the surrounding environment as quickly as possible. After a moment, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. This rain seems to be a bit ridiculously heavy. Look up. Yilin's pupils shrank suddenly. A pitch-black sky with no boundaries as far as the eye can see is falling from the sky towards the plain where Yilin is. Kanzaki City and the beautiful mental space of Gaijiam. Two worlds. Overlapping. Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Xueshi. Chapter 588. A torrent of water fell from the sky. This is no longer rain. It's rushing water. There was that pitch-black sky floating in the sky, full of water. Like a boundless lake, but also like the sea. Anyway. During the time when Yiren was talking to Sen Gaijiami, the whole world had undergone earth-shaking changes. In front of you. The black flood falling from the sky is about to flood the world in front of us. It gives people the feeling that there is a woman taking a bath in the sky, rubbing, and the whole basin of water is blackened and thoroughly washed. She feels unhappy and simply overturns the bathtub, making the whole world unhappy with her. No one has been wronged. Yilin's eyes narrowed and she looked up. Vaguely, Yilin saw a few figures falling from the sky in the pitch-black water. In the dark sky, countless white dots floated and drifted with the waves. Those white dots were all twisted limbs, mutilated human heads with ferocious expressions, and bloated and rotting pieces of flesh. In the turbulent black wave, Yilin could even see the tops of some buildings in Kanzaki City. No. What has undergone earth-shaking changes is not only the mental image space where he is now, but also Kanzaki City. The mental space where Gyakomi's resentment has turned into is merging with Kanzaki City. In other words, Gyajiamimi's resentment has invaded the other side. No wonder the hands of Sen Gyajiamimi were blackened. It turned out that Gyajiamimi's resentment had unknowingly reached such a terrifying level. What did you do? Yilin didn't need to think about it, but he could also deduce that the other self had a lot to do with things progressing to this point. As her thoughts passed, Yilin floated up and hung in the rain. The dark water wetted Yilin's body, and a whisper as thin as a gnat, but clearly audible, came from his ears. Like a whisper coming from the abyss, Yilin's calm state of mind couldn't help but feel a little unspeakably agitated. Evil thoughts are like reality. Evil thoughts spread silently. Evil thoughts are devouring everything. This is Gyajiami's resentment, and this is also Gyajiamimi's wishes. Poor and miserable Gyajiamimi was extremely unlucky throughout her life. Even after she died, she was stuffed into a jar by Master Yunfan because of some mysterious power in her body, and was made into something similar to making a wish. Machine exists. Although Yilin did not witness the tragic scene of Gyajiamimi being soaked into medicated wine in a jar, Yilin had already analyzed 90% of the background story of this trial through various clues and her own brainstorming. The above context. The ancients said, "Poor people must be hateful." But from Yilin's point of view, Gyajiamimi was really pitiful, and her life was a pure tragedy. At this moment, Gyajiamimi has successfully spread her resentment, making others feel the same and feel her miserable life. What a painful drama. Yilin shook his head helplessly, stretched out his hand, and behind him, patches of blue light appeared. The great, arrogant, elegant, handsome, and strong Cybertronian gentleman Nightmare arrived through the air. Ouch ouch. The Night Dire has not appeared for a long time. The engine is roaring, the turbocharger is trembling, and the thick exhaust gas makes a rumbling sound, which sounds like the Night Dire's roar. Go. Yilin said nothing and pointed to the small dot in the distance. Great Cybertronian gentleman, move out. Nightmare glanced in the direction Yilin was pointing. Although Yilin didn't say anything, Nightmare understood it at a glance. Got it? The gentleman sighed in his heart, tore through the rain curtain, drew a dark shadow in the sky, and picked up one of the figures on his back. Although Yilin can also fly through the air. But that is just to forcefully use psychic power to support one's own weight and achieve the effect of controlling the air. After all, it's not a serious flying skill. There is no comparison with the speed of Night Dire, a serious apocalypse mount. The apocalypse motorcycle faithfully carried out the innermost orders of its owner. With a handsome drift in the air, it caught Mai Ota and brought her to Yilin. When Yilin saw Ota Mai's condition, her pupils shrank suddenly and she clenched her fists subconsciously. Her left hand was neatly cut off at the elbow joint and simply bandaged. The right hand was holding a pitch-black sword tightly, but that sword was not the spiritually possessed weapon sword that Mai Ota used later, but the one that Yilin had when she first met Mai Ota in a Nagiri mountain. But now, except for the familiarity of the handle, the overall shape of the long knife has undergone a creepy and strange change. The shape of the entire knife was bloated. At the connection between the handle and the blade, there is a mini, exquisite black wrinkled flesh that sticks tightly to it. From the black piece of flesh, pitch black tentacles stretched out, like blood vessels, forming a texture on the blade that extended along the direction of the blade to the tip. At first glance, Otamai's sword looks like it has a layer of vivid 3D film with special effects. The overall feeling is that the knife seems to have come to life, with a faint evil and cold aura. This knife, and your hand. Otamai, who was lying on Night Dyer's back, opened her eyes indifferently. The moment she opened her eyes, there seemed to be a strange light flashing through her eyes, but Otamai quickly avoided Yilin's gaze, changed her posture with her back hand, and inserted the knife into her eyes. Sheath, grabbed the nightmare's accelerator with one hand and twisted it a few times. I'm fine. Otamai said expressionlessly. She didn't explain what she went through on the other side, and she didn't even mention to Yilin the story of her broken hand and other things. It was as if breaking this hand was just like losing a white hair, a trivial matter. Before she finished speaking, Otamai noticed that her tone was a little strange. She was afraid that Yilin would misunderstand, so she lowered her head and added, "It's okay." After working with Yilin for so long, the Dyer seat bag gradually changed into the shape of Mai Ota, who knew how to drive the Dyer without any need to say anything. Together with Night Dyer, she swept forward and whispered, "Follow me." Yilin frowned and was about to ask something, but suddenly found that the weird piece of flesh at the joint between the handle and the blade of the strange long knife that Otamai hung on her waist slowly cracked open. There was an evil yellow-green light in the gap. When Yilin saw the scene in the evil light clearly, Yilin's unopened brows furrowed even deeper. Something is wrong with Mai Ota. That's an eyeball. Otamai's sword must have undergone some strange change. But looking at Otamai's appearance, she seems to be quite normal. I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse. Yilin used telekinesis to follow Dyer's tail lights from a distance. With his speed, he really couldn't catch up with Night Dyer, who was running at full speed. If he could avoid being thrown away by Night Dyer, he already had the advantage of having a wide field of vision in the air. Crash dash. Large swaths of water fell from the sky. Black water has become a strange substance between solid and liquid, and even the physical laws of the real world cannot be applied to it. Pieces of black water condensed into various strange shapes, mixed with different ghosts, or residual limbs, heads, and internal organs, falling from mid-air at a constant speed. Immediately afterwards, the buildings in Kanzaki City quickly collapsed and collapsed downwards. The scene in front of me was terrifyingly chaotic. It's like two worlds, one head up and one head down, forcibly merged together by some kind of force. When the fragments of the building fell to a certain height in the air, they were suddenly split into pieces of chaotic geometric figures by the chaotic space. Some hit the ground with a bang, and some simply suspended in mid-air, forming floating islands of various shapes. If she hadn't been free, Yilin might have stopped to admire the magnificent scenery in front of her that was rarely seen even in other trials. Because this world fusion scene is really rare. Yilin, who has the memory of 2 lifetimes, has seen such an exaggerated and outrageous scene for the first time. The boundaries of the world no longer exist. It should be said that Gayajimai's evil thoughts are powerful enough to break the barrier between the 2 worlds. Yilin's expression changed slightly. This is just the beauty of Gayajim. Yilin has always been wary of the it hidden behind everything, fearing that at the end of the trial, she would face such a terrifying existence. Many trials will have a certain impact on the difficulty of the trial depending on how deeply the plot is explored. If you dig too much, it will directly increase the difficulty of the trial by a large level. But the current trial Yilin is in is already Eternal Night level. Above Eternal Night level, some people speculate that there is a more difficult trial, Twilight of the Gods. Of course, this is just a legend and speculation, and no one has actually survived such a trial. Yilin originally thought that maybe, it should be just a legend. But according to the current trend of the trial, if the difficulty is really increased without any upper limit. Hummed. Yilin and Oda Mai followed closely. The eye on her knife. As he followed, Yilin felt something was wrong. At the same time, I also understood what the phrase "follow me" meant. It seems that she is not without gains from being next door. The figures of the two people cut through the black space. Now, if it weren't for his head facing up and his feet facing down, Yilin wouldn't be able to tell the difference between sky and earth with just his eyes. After the mental space of Kanzaki City and Gaijiamaimi merged, the space in front of them turned into a chaotic black. Everything was submerged in the dark water, and no one was spared. Whether it's above, below, left or right, there are all kinds of ghosts with tentacles and twisted limbs everywhere. The end of this trial, to be honest, was a bit more exciting than the experience Yilin and Oda Mai had together in Styx Junior High School. At the very least, in the trial at Styx Junior High School, the main mission of Yilin and Mai Oda was just to escape from Styx Junior High School. But this time, Yiren wants to find the location of the incarnation of Gaijiami's evil thoughts and find a way to eliminate her to complete the mission. In front of my eyes, the light is getting darker and darker. Darkness seems infinitely far and infinitely close. Yilin's perception was even strangely compressed to a range of 2 or 3 meters around her, making it impossible to distinguish changes in distance based on perception. Under the guidance of Mai Oda, Yilin had the illusion that she was gradually entering the dark abyss. At this moment, there is no other way but to observe the surroundings with the naked eye. Nai Hongzio and Bai Xiaoi are mental states and spiritual bodies, and are more deeply affected by the strange power than Yilin. Maybe as soon as they were summoned, the two little female spirits would be dizzy, not knowing where to go. To be honest, Yilin didn't see anything and could only roughly judge whether there was any danger ahead based on the changes in the purity of black, the movement around her, or her intuition. Careful. At this moment, in front of Yilin and Oda Mai, a darkness deeper than black turned into tentacles all over the sky, twisting towards Oda Mai who was charging ahead. Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Shueshi. Chapter 589. Ahead is an abyss. Oda danced. She let go of the car and let Nightmare act alone. Night Dyer also faithfully carries out Yilin's orders and concentrates on being a mount for Oda Mai. The knife in Oda Mai's hand was like a demon. The evil eye opened, and the green light tore through the darkness, covering Oda Mai's entire body. Hiss. In an instant, the knife seemed to have become part of Mai Oda's arm. With a wave of Mai Oda's right hand, a piece of the abyss of darkness in front of her eyes was torn open. Aha! But suddenly, from the depths of darkness, a dark figure stood there. That figure looked somewhat similar to Mai Oda. One person wielded 2 swords, and his long black hair was fluttering in the wind. In the distance, the black shadow opened its eyes, which were as scarlet as blood. It is the embodiment of Oda Mai's resentment. Nightmare howled and rushed towards the depths, carrying Oda Mai. Right now, a terrible repulsive force came. Yilin was pushed out involuntarily, getting further and further away from Oda Mai. Not really. Yilin is still moving forward. However, Oda Mai was too fast and he was too slow, so it seemed like he was pushed out. Xiao Wu. Yilin looked surprised, looked at Oda Mai's back, and shouted loudly. Oda Mai did not look back. She just raised the remaining half of her arm and waved to Yilin behind her. It's like saying, "I'll take the first step. Night Dyer. Bring Gouri's car back to me." Yilin was a little angry. How could you be like this? Under normal circumstances, Yilin should have been angry and shocked. But because of the existence of grudge, Yilin had a slightly strong emotion in her heart, which was immediately absorbed by grudge. Resentment is like a monster dormant on Yilin's forehead, absorbing resentment and Yilin's emotions, making Yilin become the existence she is now. This feeling is so uncomfortable. In the distance. Nightmare almost cried. Cried until the headlights fogged up. Why do you want to turn your old car around? Your mistress has stepped on Geo on the front of this gentleman's car, how can I turn around? When I look back at this gentleman's head, ah no, the front of the car is about to be crushed. Then. The great Cybertronian motorcycle gentleman, with a row of ferocious and domineering exhaust pipes spraying out exhaust gas with a weird sound, which sounds like crying or panting, moving forward in an indomitable and tragic way. Yulin was finally pushed out. That feeling was like rejection. Evil thoughts were repelling him. Because he's not evil enough? No, yes and no. Gayajiamimi's evil thoughts must have noticed his presence. Don't let him in. Another fierce Gayajiami wouldn't let Yuren in, so Yuren couldn't get in. Yulin watched helplessly as Otamai's figure disappeared into the dark abyss, feeling as if a small piece of her heart had been dug out. But something changed around Yulin, and he was spit out by something. In front of him is a huge sphere. The ball was like a flowing liquid, squeezed into a lump, and the surface was even flowing slowly. Underneath the ball, there is a huge depression, a deep pit. The huge black fluid sphere is suspended in mid-air, rolling slowly, and is not connected to the ground or its surroundings. The ground collapsed, giving the impression that the ball was repelling everything around it and crushing the ground. Quack. Squeak, squeak, squeak. I feel so much pain. Teacher, can you come to my house tonight? Damn. Damn the traffic police. I obviously didn't do anything wrong, why did you fire me? Why? Ha ha ha. All around. Yulin's ear. Voices sounded like broken thoughts one by one. It was like there were countless people talking to Yulin's ears, expressing their inner anguish. Monsters of different shapes rushed towards Yulin after she was spit out by the flowing black water ball. Yulin is in a bad mood now. Really not good. 2222. Taking action with both guns, Yulin exploded with speed, turning the revolver into a machine gun. The bullets poured out, and all the ghosts were blown to pieces by the intertwined firepower network in an instant. Xiao Wu is still alive. Yulin felt inexplicably agitated. Otamai is in a bad state. Something must have happened to her. That's why she entered this place. Yulin raised her head, and after clearing away the mobs around her, she looked at the strange things in front of her again. This is a black sphere with an infinite diameter. The sphere was dark and dull. It was obviously a liquid-like surface, but it did not reflect any light. Yulin walked through the air and struck out with a palm from the air. In an instant, the power of telekinesis suddenly exploded, and the surface of the sphere, like soft cotton, suddenly collapsed with the turbulence of power, and a huge palm print emerged. There were ripples around the palm prints, giving people the feeling of being a bit like soft cotton. After a moment, the soft sphere returned to its original shape, round and flawless as before. Invincible attribute. Yulin frowned and wanted to laugh but couldn't. He slowly approached the sphere, stretched out his finger, and poked at the surface. His fingers were buried in, and his fingertips felt cool and smooth. But other than a little feeling, there was no other discomfort. Bo. Yulin pulled out her finger. There was an instant negative pressure, and a weird sucking sound came from the connection between the finger and the ball. Soon, the small hole poked by the finger returned to its original shape. Yulin suddenly had a bold idea. The surname is Yi. Suddenly. Right now. A roar came from behind Yulin. An apostle covered in blood, with a crazy look on his face, rushed towards Yulin. Behind him, within 100 meters, there were faint ghostly shadows moving around, almost as if they were far away. It's all you. If I hadn't believed your lies. Boom. Yulin slowly typed a question mark, raised her hand and shot him in the head. The other party was so angry that he completely forgot to dodge. Perhaps he didn't even expect that Yilin would shoot when he was told to shoot and take action when he was told to do so, without saying hello and without any mental preparation. It was gone in an instant. Get chaos value. You should have reported your name first, so you can remember it for the next life. Remember. Before you die in your next life, tell your name first, so that you can live in the memory of others forever and be passed down forever. Look, Henry Zhang is not living well in Yilin's memory. Yilin put away the revolver. He was not in the mood to mourn for the apostle who was innocently hit by a gun, and he had no way to mourn. After the version update, the drop of the relic box has been cancelled. There was no relic box, and Yilin didn't even know the other person's name, so she simply went there. Even if Yilin wanted to express her gratitude from time to time, she could only label the other person as anonymous. With the death of the anonymous apostle following him, a large group of ferocious ghosts disappeared. Right after he casually killed an unknown person, Yilin suddenly turned around. He looked thoughtfully at the sphere not far behind him that could not be poked or broken. I see. This time, there was an additional question mark on Yilin's mantra. He was also a little unsure. During this trial, many people were cursing me. Scolding Yilin. Scolding Kudo Shinji. Some people know that they have been tricked by Yilin. But more people found that they were cheated by Kudo Shinji. That's right. Killing the civilians of Kanzaki City will indeed eliminate the ghosts that were born based on them. But as they slaughtered wantonly, someone gradually realized that something was not right. Why do it seem like more and more awesome-looking ghosts are running rampant? Oh my god. That one looks like so and so. That looks like so and so. Huge giant dogs roamed the ruins. One by one, the ghosts are agile and look no different from humans. They move extremely fast and can cover a distance of tens of meters in an instant. That movement, that posture, that body position are almost the same as the attributes of a senior agility side, and are even a little faster. This dark place is filled with ferocious beasts, twisted ghosts, bloated and rotten flesh, and slimy tentacles. The world in front of you looks like an endless purgatory. No matter who comes here, no other emotion can arise except despair. They totally understand. Killing the residents of Kanzaki City on a large scale maybe, not necessarily be the real way to clear the level. The murderous intent and madness of the apostle will give birth to more ghosts. A ghost with the same power as the apostles. Those are all boss. Whose idea was this? Kudo Shinji. It's him, it's him, it's him. The human heart is a complicated thing. Even if some people clearly know that under this weird worldview, they cannot think wildly, cannot act blindly, and cannot harbor resentment, but unfortunately, once something happens, negative emotions will flow out endlessly and cannot be contained. The trend has taken shape. Yilin looked down at the strange and twisted world in front of her, and sighed, the other me just made a little push, but more importantly, the human heart. No matter who comes here, the complicated human heart will always be involuntarily give birth to these ugly ghosts. The human heart, this is the human heart. Humans, this is what humans are. Yilin feels that she is a little different from others. Perhaps because of blood, perhaps because of grudge, only one Muto Iron was born based on him. At the very least, he has seen a lot of quiet monsters and dog-headed monsters. By the way, there are no ghosts of Lichanga and Otamai. People's hearts. When Yilin said these two words, Gaejium's kind thought suddenly appeared in her mind, and she poked her small chest with her finger before leaving. The gesture was certainly not what Bai Xiaoi had imagined, pointing shyly at her chest and asking Yilin to do something indescribable. Rather, the real meaning of Sen Gaejiumi is that what Yilin is looking for is in that place. Quiet. In the dense tide of ghosts, Yilin found Su Jingjing, who was in a panic and was in a mess. You. President. When Su Jingjing saw Yi Lin's figure in the sky, her body was so excited that she almost cried like a dolphin. If you don't come here, I'm going to get cold. Boom. Yi Lin's eyes narrowed. Falling from the sky, his palm downwards, pressed. The turbulent air waves formed a circle with Su Anjing as the center, and the billowing air waves spread to all sides. Su Jingjing was stunned. Yi Lin's palm was like the legendary palm technique falling from the sky. With one palm strike, the surrounding area became completely quiet. It felt like a nuclear bomb was dropped, and everything was completely silent. Hummed. You came early. If you come earlier, I won't have to come so hard. My hands are sore, okay. Su Jingjing was complaining in his heart, but he didn't dare to express it on his face. After all, the fighting power Yi Lin displayed at this moment was really terrifying. It can be called an inhuman level. There are limits to being a human being, so you are no longer a human being. President. President, how should we fight? Push vertically or horizontally, it's all up to you. Su Jingjing's heart was in turmoil, but with a well-behaved expression on his face, he stepped forward and asked. Yi Lin picked at the dead skin on her forehead and landed next to Su Anjing. The surrounding ghosts were turned to blood by Yi Lin's palm. The dark pool of blood was squirming rapidly and had a tendency to come back. Yi Lin didn't seem to see it, nor did she care. She just smiled. Let's go and be the boss. Su Jingjing was stunned for a moment and didn't understand. Whose boss should I be? Everyone. Although Yi Lin said these 3 words with a smile, it didn't sound like he was joking. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xuexi. Chapter 590. Emperor Wang Tian was numb. Completely numb. The phobia of a family of 3 was also cured. The cure options are somewhat difficult to describe. At first, Goza was chased through 18 streets by 3 ghosts covered with tentacles and tools. Goza had no intention of fighting. But suddenly, more family of 3 poured out from all directions, and Goza was surrounded by various tentacles, feeling that a certain string in his heart suddenly collapsed. The disease is also cured. No more fear. I no longer breathe when I run. I couldn't shed any more tears. You are bullying a dog too much. I am such an insignificant looking dog, how can I mess with you? How does Ben Wang look like Mao Mao? Is it too hairy? Isn't it okay if I shave? In extreme anger, Goza burst out with unprecedented power, spiraling into the sky, and the Qigong wave seemed to be free of charge, turning into a bomber in mid-air, bombing wildly at the ghosts on the ground. Oh, Mao Mao. Just when Gozu regained his confidence, abandoned his fear, and stood up again, the little girl's cry was faintly heard in the distance. This time, the cry was clearly audible, and it was no longer the hoarse wail coming from the mouths of those ghosts. Just like that night, the sound echoed in the ears when the dog was being dissected alive. It's that little girl. A retarded girl. The hair on the dog's body exploded. He didn't want to pay attention to it at first, so he turned around and flew away. But the crying was getting louder and more miserable. The dog gritted his teeth, hesitated for a few seconds, and then flew in the direction of the cry. The little girl was indeed surrounded. The bodies of the 2 other grotesque corpses of the mother and mother were hugged together, not far from the little girl. 2 girl ghosts holding scissors were surrounding the girl, resisting the bloodthirsty attacks of other ghosts. When the dog looked at it, his eyes widened. The scene in front of him seemed to be beyond Goza's imagination. He didn't understand why the ghost who was chasing Guza was protecting the little girl, while other ghosts were attacking the little girl. Mau Mau. With sharp eyes, the little girl saw Wang Tiandi flying in mid-air with his tail swung, and called from a distance. I'm Mau, 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 your sister. The dog was frightened, angry, and a little angry. The two scissor ghosts fell at the speed of light. Divided into corpses by other ghosts, swallowed, and turned into water. The scene was so cruel that the dog subconsciously covered its eyes, but it couldn't bear it, so it opened two gaps with its paws to see what would happen next. The girl exclaimed, Mau Mau. Save me. Emperor Wang Tian. Seeing that Wang Tiandi ignored her, the girl cried even more sadly, Mau Mau, my Mau Mau ignores me. Emperor Wang Tian. After the two remaining scissor ghosts died, the other ghosts rushed towards the little girl crazily. The bloated pieces of flesh were dragging on the ground, the cold teeth were grinding, the hideous-looking giant baby was laughing wildly, the rotting woman was twisting, and the boundless darkness was murmuring. In an instant, everything in front of him seemed to be in slow motion in front of Guza. It's not that the dog has awakened any special abilities or hobbies, but that the time in front of it seems to have slowed down due to extreme entanglement. It could even clearly see the mucus on the ghosts and the blood foam in the gaps between their teeth. In the distance, surrounded by ghosts, the little girl was shivering and looked very pitiful. Is it pitiful? A big question mark popped up on Guza's forehead. Not pitiful. But. Woofgrass. The slow motion passed again, and Wang Tiandi felt that there must be something wrong with his mind at this moment. It clearly remembers that the family of three tortured it inhumanely in the mentally retarded house. But the most ridiculous thing is that before the little girl was about to be swallowed by the ghost, it suddenly rushed out with a twitch in its mind. It rushed. It rushed. It rushed. All Guza could think about was the scene of the little girl hugging him in bed and calling Mau Mau tenderly. The sudden impulse and passion were just like the mood he felt when facing the terrifying moonlight little she-wolf in the moonlight forest. Wang Tiandi had no hesitation, risked everything, sacrificed his life heroically, and stood up. Dog soul transformation. Hell three-headed puppy mode. Full power. Adrenaline is roaring, prostate fluid is rushing, the dog tightens its buttocks, and the force is transmitted from the back to the front, exerting force suddenly. An instant later, a huge shadow of a vicious beast appeared behind Emperor Wang Tian. The muscles on the dog's forelegs are bulging like fine steel, and they look full of strength. Although Wang Tiandi's body shape did not change at all under the hell three-headed puppy mode, his skin turned dark red at this moment, and his snow-white hair ignited with blazing blood-colored flames, like a bath of fire. Arriving, there was a cold and violent aura all over his body. After the transformation, Wang Tiandi resolutely swooped down, set off a terrifying fishy wind, and rushed towards the dense group of ghosts and monsters. Emperor Wang Tian went crazy. The scene looked like a half-cooked mad dog biting into bloated and weird pieces of meat. A few minutes later, hundreds of ghosts were turned into bloody water by Emperor Wang Tian. Beside the little girl, there were several more exquisite mini-scissor ghosts walking out of the pool of blood. But this time, they did not do anything perverted to Emperor Wang Tian like before. After Wang Tiandi broke out, his hair returned to its original white color, but it lost its luster and became dull. The whole dog was listless and unable to support himself. The little girl walked towards Wang Tiandi. Wang Tiandi was really frightened. He looked at the mentally retarded little girl warily and did not attack immediately. Mau Mau. The little girl hugged Wang Tiandi tightly and gently rubbed the dog's hair with her fair cheek. Behind her, two ghosts with facial features somewhat similar to the little girl and holding large scissors in their hands smiled relievedly at the little girl and Wang Tiandi, then turned into dust and disappeared. Can you give me my puppy back? A voice suddenly sounded behind the little girl. Yulin watched the whole process of Wang Tiandi's trump card unfolding in his eyes. Originally, he wanted to help Wang Tiandi, but when Wang Tiandi overcame his fear, Yulin chose to wait and see. Unexpectedly, there was an unexpected gain. Isn't it my fur? No, Yulin smiled kindly, if you don't believe me, just ask. Without saying anything, Wang Tiandi pointed his dog paw hard at Yulin's body 3 times, for fear that the mentally retarded girl wouldn't believe it. The little girl reluctantly returned Wang Tiandi to Yulin. Until Yulin hugged Guzi and disappeared into the distance, the little girl looked at Yulin's figure reluctantly. After a while, she laughed happily. You're pretty cool, Wang Er. Yulin gave Guzi a like. Wang Tiandi changed into a comfortable position in Yulin's arms, weakly made a V gesture with his paws, and raised an evil and sly smile at the corner of his mouth. What I mean is that you don't even let the little girl go, you are a beast. Oh, by the way, you are a beast to begin with. Guzi's smile instantly froze on his face. Snapped. The next second, Yulin threw Wang Tiandi to the ground. It's not over yet, keep working hard, I'm optimistic about you. Wang Tiandi was slapped to the ground, with his feet in the air, his eyes wide open, and his face was confused. President. President, not far away, Su Jingjing came over panting slightly. Hey, President, you have found the lost Wang Er. Found it, Yulin smiled and said, and there is also a little unexpected gain. Reward. Su Jingjing didn't understand Yulin's words. Yulin shook his head without explaining. Su Jingjing saw that his president was telling off his story again, so he just flat-mouthed and didn't ask any more questions. Pretending and being mysterious are the basic operations of the guild leader. There is nothing much to say, and it is useless to ask. It is better to save some energy and use it to shoot monsters. She looked around and asked other teammates, where are Sister Xiao and Big Star? Yulin was a little worried. To be honest, when he was partnered with Oda Mai, he was rarely worried about Oda Mai. But this time, the situation is different. There were obviously unexpected changes in Oda Mai. This trial hides something beyond imagination. No wonder it is Eternal Night level. If the trial is allowed to continue to collapse, the consequences will be unimaginable. Careless. Yulin sighed, but did not explain Hishinwu's current unknown situation to Su Jingjing. Guzi, Su Jingjing, and Yulin reunited. At this moment, hundreds of meters away, one by one Big Brother, Save Me, distress special effects soared into the sky as if they were free of charge. It's like a bright firework, and it's like Li Changa's life, extremely coquettish. Yulin found Li Changa immediately. He flew towards Li Changa, only to see Li Changa running in embarrassment on the colorful ground, stepping on the dark blood. Behind him, weird-shaped archery monsters aimed at Li Changa's butt and shot out thick long arrows. So cruel. Yulin gave Su Jingjing, who looked innocent, a strange look. He recognized at a glance that those shooting monsters should be the result of Su Jingjing's resentment. But why did he pursue Li Changa? What kind of hatred and hatred? Yulin felt that if the love and hatred in this story were to be told in 30,000 words, it would be another touching story. Boss, help me. Li Changa, who was running wildly, glanced around and saw Yulin in the air, who seemed to be watching a show. He was afraid that Yulin wouldn't favor him, so he raised his hands and waved in Yulin's direction without losing his face, shouting for help. This kind of pure physical attack put no pressure on Yulin. After easily killing a Jingjing monster in seconds, Yulin rescued Li Changa, whose life and death were hanging by a thread. Zaza. Su Jingjing made no secret of his disdain and spat out a slanderous sentence. Li Changa's mouth twitched. He really didn't want to argue with Su Jingjing. If he showed his ranking on the ranking list, he might cause more trouble in the future, so he could only swallow the bitterness and endure everything silently. I will be the only one in the end, to bear everything. When Li Chang'e was in love, his emotions were in place and he recited the line silently in his heart. Huh. Wait a moment. When did this line seem to have been said? So familiar. President, next we. Except for Oda Mai, everyone in Yilin's team is complete. Su Jingjing turned around and asked, his eyes flashing with excitement. Li Chang'e looked at Yilin, who seemed to be planning something. Just as he was about to take a breath and rest, Li Chang'e suddenly felt an ominous premonition in his heart. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 591. Yilin smiled and said nothing, and took Li Chang'e, Wang Tiandi, Su Jingjing, and the dog towards the huge black ball again. In fact, the target of that ball was huge. Even if Yilin didn't take it, Su Jingjing and Li Chang'e had already noticed the changes here, but they didn't dare to mess around. From the place where Li Chang'e was found, all the way to the edge of the huge black ball, there were numerous corpses along the way, with bloated and wriggling pieces of flesh everywhere, tentacles scurrying around, and ghosts wandering aimlessly on the broken earth. Humanity is almost dead, and the number of ghosts has been significantly reduced. Su Anjing discovered that although the number of ghosts had decreased a lot, the smell in the air had become stronger, so stinky that it was difficult for Su Anjing to distinguish between east and west. Su Jingjing had already begun to regret it. Regret teaming up with Yiren. She has never encountered such a deceptive trial. There are obviously 5 doors, but which one of the front 4 doors doesn't look better than the 5th door? Do you have to choose the Eternal Night level? President, why are you so reckless? In extreme anger, around Su Jingjing, the black water that had not dispersed on the ground spurted out a more unique Jingjing monster. This time, the thick arrows condensed from the holes in the Jingjing monster changed strangely again as Su Jingjing's mood fluctuated. There are all the threads, spikes, barbs, etc., and all the configurations that should be used to increase the lethality of thick arrows. If you want to continue to evolve, you will probably have to break through the limits of human imagination. My darn thing! As soon as Li Chang'e saw the Jingjing monster who had ejaculated him to death not long ago, appeared again, he could no longer lose the handsomeness on his face. Every cheek muscle on his face was twitching, and he was so scared that my hair is trembling. Of course I'm afraid. No matter how awesome Li Chang'e is. But I can't stand these ghosts. Even if Li Chang'e used his only ultimate move impersonation and transformed into a real man for 10 seconds, it would only be 10 seconds. As long as Su Jingjing is still alive and the resentment is still there, those Jingjing monsters will continue to appear. But next, what no one expected was that the Jingjing monster had holes all over its body, opening and closing, shrinking and sprayed out a wave of arrows at Yilin. Yilin. Li Chang'e. Su Jingjing. Emperor Wang Tian, wow. Yilin waved his hand, and after the arrow rain in the sky froze, he turned back in an instant, and cleared another wave of mobs. That's right, in Yilin's view, the Jingjing monster that killed Li Chang'e until he was rolling on the ground was really not much different from the little monster. That's it, there's nothing to say. Control your emotions, Yilin warned Su Jingjing with a cold face. Only then did Su Jingjing come back to his senses. He pointed at his face with wide eyes and mouth. Wait a minute, President, don't tell me, those ghosts are me. Now you should know how ugly you are inside. Yilin made up for it without mercy. While taunting Su Anjing, Yilin silently restored her spiritual energy. This journey consumes a lot of money. Li Chang'e knew at a glance that the wave of arrows just now was aimed at Yilin. He was just about to have fun, but when he remembered that his ridicule might have serious consequences, he immediately became emotional, a touch of sadness appeared on his face, and he fell silent. But I was laughing crazy in my heart. After a small episode, the 3 of them and 1 dog set off again. They were getting closer and closer to the giant black ball. Looking from a distance, a dark shadow appeared on the horizon. But this is not a problem. The problem is that among the dark ghosts, there are apostles who can move freely among them and have not been attacked by the ghosts. Most of the surviving apostles understood part of the truth after reminding each other. Everyone also knows that a series of strong negative human emotions such as murderous intention, anger, fear, sadness, etc. can all manifest themselves in corresponding forms with the help of Gaiagium's strange power. The most outrageous thing is that the ghost embodied by his own emotions will not attack the real body. After understanding this, many apostles suddenly realized that they could still play like this. When Irum was having a conversation with Gaia Kinmai's kind thoughts in Yanoya, the surviving apostles started a brutal massacre of the humans who appeared in the mental world. For every apostle, killing someone is not too difficult. The efficiency is even quite high. Take Yulin himself as an example. As long as he can be ruthless, as long as ordinary humans stand closer together and use telekinesis to slap down, he can kill 100 people in 10 seconds. Even if 1,000 people are killed, it only takes a few minutes. At the level of apostles, as long as the apostles are willing, the lives of ordinary people are just existences that can be harvested at will. Therefore, under the killings of the apostles, the ghosts originating from the hearts of ordinary people disappeared in pieces, and were replaced by ghosts manifested by the evil thoughts of each apostle. There were more and more ghosts, as if they became a distinct team. This world is poisonous, Yulin said to his teammates as he walked. The world is full of evil thoughts. It's not just full. These evil thoughts are like viruses, spreading in everyone's heart unknowingly. Evil thoughts will be spread, and dumping evil thoughts on others will only breed more evil thoughts. This is not as simple as 1 plus 1. Here, 1 plus 1 is approximately equal to infinity. Just like Jing Jing, if you thought for a moment that Li Chang'e is annoying, it would be infinitely amplified, enough to give birth to that ugly monster. Li Chang'e whispered, "Maybe she really wants to kill me." Yes, Zaza must die. When Su Jingjing heard Yulin use her as an example, her face turned slightly red, but she refused to admit defeat and casually scolded Li Chang'e. Li Chang'e felt like crying in his heart. He wanted to tell Su Jingjing that maybe I would be ranked higher than you. How to prove it? You can't go all out for such a boring thing, right? What a waste. Although Li Chang'e and Su Jingjing were quarreling. But they know better than anyone that what follows will be a tough battle. No matter who it is directed at. It's all hard work. Li Chang'e was brewing his emotions. The ultimate move is not released, the trump card is not released for the time being, and the special effects are still okay. The special effects are brilliant and invisible behind Li Chang'e. Su Jingjing held a long bow, his elf ears trembled, his face was solemn, and his whole body was filled with the scent of Taoism. Yulin put his hands behind his back, stood in the air, and forced Grauman to fill his head. The dog's head was drooped, his hair was droopy, and his aura stood out among the team, making him look like an exhausted scumbag. 3 people and 1 dog arrived at the battlefield. Many people gradually noticed the existence of Yulin, 3 people and 1 dog. Led by Kudo Shinji, the first group of Die Before You groups discovered the mystery of the trial one after another. A group of ghosts gathered around them who looked somewhat similar to them, but some of their ugliness was infinitely magnified. They were attacking the huge black sphere. Xiang Baxian, Chu Yalian, Zhou Bukan, Chen Xiaoxiao, Zhen Xianhui and others relied on their own abilities to deal with the ghosts, and they also spared no effort to launch the final attack on the black sphere. The scene was chaotic. Yulin was condescending and her senses were released. Inside the sphere, Yulin's perception was suppressed by the strong evil thoughts, like a blind man. But outside, things were different. With the diffusion of perception, the range of perception was more than half a kilometer, allowing Yilin to control all the movements in the place to the maximum extent, including ghosts, apostles, and the ball. Whether it is the apostle who came to this beautiful mental world of Gaiageum after dying once and struggled to survive, or the apostle who wandered to Kanzaki Temple in Kanzaki City, was finally submerged by the flood, and landed here from the sky in the fusion of worlds. The apostles finally arrived here. Anyone who has not reached this place is already dead. So cool. Anyone who dies here is truly dead and can never be resurrected. A rough visual inspection showed that there were only about 20 apostles left who finally came to the giant black ball alive. Yilin's team occupied 4 positions. It can be seen from this that, except for Yilin, his teammates have a strong desire to survive and are able to survive such a cruel eternal night-level trial until now. It's you, people. The apostles who were close to each other noticed the rapid approach of Yilin, 3 people and 1 dog. What they noticed earlier than Yilin was Li Changa's special effects. So sexy. The glittering special effects, in this desperate world of black and white, are so dazzling and eye-catching that it is difficult to ignore. They saw Li Changa first, and then they saw Yilin, who was flying in the air without touching the ground in front of the team. At this point, Yilin no longer had any intention of hiding her strength. Flying skills are also very rare in the Apostle Circle. Yilin's skill controls the sky with the help of the void, not to mention other things, directly suppressed many apostles, which is jaw-dropping. Dark place. Kudo Shinji looked at Yilin's figure with bright eyes. He recalled the strange strong wind that was set off at the job fair and Yilin's skill wind rolling building destruction. Kudo Shinji habitually began to speculate on Yilin's strengthening ability. The mental side can be insidious, and words can deceive, but the strength shown cannot. The ability to control wind. Kudo Shinji smiled. What does this mean? I am proficient in wind, fire, thunder, and lightning. A mere wind, haha. Help. Hit this ball. Someone greeted Yilin from below. They thought Yilin was here to help. The apostles all understood one thing. The beauty of Gaiageum is hidden in the ball. Isn't this obvious? Otherwise, what would this ball do? Play ball? Yilin is indeed here to help. It's just that the way he came to help was a little different from what others expected. It's already starting to spread. Yilin lowered his head and flew another 20 meters higher to give himself a wider field of vision. The world is toxic. The spread of murderous intent will only give birth to more evil thoughts. Countless ghosts were roaring, the bloated flesh was swelling, and the twisted limbs were enchanting. All the apostles stepped on black water. Every time they took a step, more evil ghosts that were somewhat similar to them were born in the far corners, more and more, endless. Everyone frantically poured out murderous intent towards the giant black ball, their eyes red. Stop, that's not how this trial goes. Yilin hung in the air, his telekinesis condensing into the shape of a megaphone, spreading his voice to every corner of the field. It's a pity that no one liked him. Haha, Yilin chuckled, clasped his fingers, and chose a target that looked easier to bully. The flowing lines began to outline in Yilin's eyes. Grasp of annihilation. Annihilation. Sinai. It actually triggered the annihilation effect. Good luck. Ah, no, the annihilation effect works in the opposite direction. The lower the luck value, the higher the chance of triggering. An apostle disappears at the speed of light. The death of an apostle, accompanied by the disappearance of numerous evil spirits around him, and the horrifying movement suddenly caused everyone to stop in unison and stare at Yilin in the sky with wide eyes. Yilin smiled kindly and said, I said, stop.